critiquing their work because you care about them personally and you want their work to get better, right, or you want them to feel better about their work, then yes, right, that's a good thing. However, right, like if they don't want to hear your critique, then it is not kind to give it to them anyway.
Yeah, Kim Scott.
Well done.
It's all
Oh, wait, hold
reminding me
on.
of
There's
this
clapping.
horrible situation.
I'm going to close the media tab now because it's annoying even to me.
I would say this is all reminding me just like anecdotally of this boss I had once at a startup, and this person had a real problem with micromanaging, and we all slowly, let him know, hey, like this micromanaging is like it's not helpful, and then he went into kind of like stopped doing it and got very hurt about it, and he would be one of those people who would drop this, oh, are you doing okay? And he'd be like, oh, trying to make you feel empathy for him because he couldn't micromanage anymore, and that, of course, no one bit. But then one day he walked in the office smiling, and it was like, oh, something went horribly wrong. And he had gone to drinks with someone the night before, and he was so happy to share with everyone that he lamented to this person, and this person, over a couple of drinks said, hey, you're not micromanaging them. It's just because you care. And he's like, see, I'm helping you all. You guys made me feel bad, and it just became 100 times worse. So that's the pathological version of radical candor. When, but anyway, that's what popped in my head, so I said it.
That is I think I was going to say quintessence, but I actually don't know what that means. That's the essence of this podcast. Is I thought of it, therefore I said it.
Okay.
Therefore it's true.
So the essence. Okay. Paris. Bed. Yeah.
I think actually the internet's better at making up facts. I don't know that it's actually better as a bullshit detector. If you think about it.
I posted something on Facebook saying that all these OpenAI articles are being written by ChatGPT, by the computer system to distract us all as Skynet launches its attack on humanity. And that made more sense than anything I was reading about. Well, yeah, could happen. We gave Sean an idea. This is very dangerous. And 20 minutes later, everyone was dead.
No, I was trying to come up with an idea. It wasn't. It was. I was questing. I was questing for an idea. It didn't happen. Mark, when you said, didn't the internet ruin something? To try to tie it back to creativity and imagination, I think actually no. It actually made things 1,000 million times better. As much as you might want to laugh at, Fortnite dances. Or TikTok reels, there's people are expressing themselves. Now, maybe I was going to say they're not expressing themselves for the right reason, but if you're expressing yourself, do we really care what the reason is? I think the rise in individual ability to create, which is actually one of the things I like about AI. And I understand the concerns around how is it trained, right? Especially with art, but even words, But like episode 2, Mark, what I did was I took the transcripts from our recording and had ChatGPT summarize those, and that's what we used to find some of the images. I then used DALL-E to make those images. And then when we were coming up with the YouTube description for the video, I asked the ChatGPT to, using the summaries that it had created as a reference, write a limerick. And I love limericks, but I'm shit at them. However, I have ideas for limericks, just like I have ideas for images that I can't paint, I can't draw, I arguably can't write. I'm not even very good at talking. But these tools, right, are going to allow even more people to create and make things. And I understand that then some people who had the advantage of being talented at a craft will now have more competition. But I think true talent in that craft is actually the creativity, not the tool. So just because you're an amazing, pen inker, doesn't mean that that's why you're popular. Maybe it's your style, your uniqueness. And that goes back to the issue of like, well, if AI can rip off somebody's unique style, is that fair? No, I don't think so. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm excited for it. But it's a person. Cool. No, I can see him. He's doing
I'm
great.
here. I just wrote the four lines of a limerick, and I need the last line from you two.
So you were talking about artists training themselves by watching or participating in other people's art, but then you got onto Spotify and Tidal's better because they pay artists more. Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, they're creating space. So just before the limerick, Tom, I love this though. The creating space, I think, right? So while the bloat of the internet, the bloat of Spotify, the bloat of us as fourth, fifth decade people, right, is that was tasty.
Yum.
Three-dimensional. I like to call that lung candy. See, I feel better now. Thank you. Is as I think there is always new space. It's just that we're not aware of it, right? Like there is cool shit going on in places that we've got no idea about, right? And it's because I think creative expression always finds a place. And now, how do you make it discoverable? I mean that's a billion dollar question. Discoverability is fucking hard, but it's there. There was, and I'll say this one last thing, and then Tom left limerick. I was watching. I've been addicted recently. When I wake up in weird hours, I now watch Instagram reels. It's basically like TikTok, but not. So I feel better about it. I don't know why. Yeah, it's true. It's actually just ported TikTok content to a second platform. But I prefer to consume my TikTok on a different platform. But they were. Nope, it's gone now. Yeah, but it was in relation to discoverability and no, it's gone. Let limerick.
That hasn't been discovered.
That you said the M word. Tisk tisk tisk. It's slightly better. Limerick.
That's just the sand in the Vaseline though. With the algorithm though, it takes any content and it needs content, and it can't do anything with silence or listening or thinking. So it kind of steamrolls across. Just to go back to Miles Davis again, since I've been going back to it. He said many times, he's like, I'm not playing the music, I'm playing the silences. That was kind of his thing. And it's what's between, and the algorithm is completely deaf to that. So it becomes content for the sake of content to stay alive. Yeah. I got my daughter a electronic keyboard, I guess like 3 years ago Christmas, and she didn't want to touch it, and then now she just grabbed it the other day and just began playing. And then I taught her a song that we had been singing as a family together for years by ear, and now she's like singing songs and we're transcribing them and putting them on the keyboard. But it wasn't until she got bored enough to actually want to do it that it happened. So now she's playing drums, writing songs, and playing keyboard, and being bored brought her to the keyboard. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm going to read the first four lines of the limerick, and you guys are going to, it's not a great limerick, but it is going to be a limerick. The last word has to have the sound air, and the limerick goes, the essence of life is to care, moans Sean, who is dressed as a bear. Then with radical candor, Tom said you should be dressed as a panda. I don't know the last line. Yeah, here we go.
Or I'll throw you up in the air.
What? Say it again?
Or I'll throw you up in the air.
Or I'll throw you up in the air. Throw you up in the air. That, and oddly enough, my daughter wrote a song called Up in the Air. So that's good.
Let's hear it.
Wait, I have it on my phone. I recorded. This is just the sound of her singing. Would you like to hear it? Really?
Yes.
It's only about 60 seconds. Hold on. This is Up in the Air by Juno. And the hit song sounded like this. So that's the hit song coming your way. Yeah. Yeah, well, she's going to do the drums and the keyboard. She's got those. She's going to need a little banjo, a little mando, things like that in there. But
I'm gonna tangent completely away from whatever caring and change, and talk about community and parenting, which actually is about caring and changing. God damn it, it's related. But uh, so we talked about earlier. My green apple with an inching orange caterpillar hair was selected by Mark's daughter.
Yep.
And my son Jasper has met Mark, and I've met Juno. And one of the things, Mark, I really appreciate is sort of, well, I mean, one, just being able to talk about our kids and talk about parenting, and also celebrating the weird and wonderful things that they do. But the idea of community, and the importance of community as an aspect of good parenting, right? Like, I'm under no illusion that my silly hair games with Emmeline are anything other than silly hair games. But I think it's important, to, like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Like the community aspect of parenting, and engaging our kids, seeing different perspectives through people in our community, in this case friends, right, which is something that I feel like, and this is probably partially expat-ish, right? Like, I left my community of people because they weren't my community of people. And now my community of people is in different countries and different cities and different time zones, and I'm okay with that because I like the people that I've chosen, and I'm sorry that I chose you because now you're stuck.
exactly.
Bum, bum, bum.
You ominous
But
music.
yeah, no, I'm not going back to the media tab. I've closed that. But what do you guys think about that? Is that why the Hammer Collective is the Hammer Collective? Oh, the Hammock Collective.
No. I enjoy watching you drown in there.
No, look at that. So I got a couple hooks in there, and I realized one of the things that I think I really enjoy about this process of creating, well, I guess we could call it a podcast, is when we kind of have talked around or about a topic or a few topics enough that we start the callbacks, right? Like when we start to like, oh, hang on a second, I remember that thing we talked about in like minute 10, and it's just like bring it back. Now, of course, I'm saying this out loud. I can't remember a fucking thing that we said earlier. But besides just the little moments of joy that I get from doing these things, so thank you for participating. Is the taking the moment, right? Like you said, like there's people in the office, and some of them are famous, right? And taking the minute to be a part of an in joke, right? Taking a minute to change a perspective of a kid or an adult, right? Like that, slowing down and realizing it doesn't have to be about the race, the competition, the whatever, right? That it can be about the moment, that it can be about just being. I mean, that goes back to, I think, the like caring, right? Like that to me is caring. As opposed to Karen, who would have no fun at all and would probably ruin the whole thing.
Wild. But it's interesting because Juno's just turned 7. So she was born in one part of Manhattan, raised in another part of Manhattan, and then has come here. And the one constant factor in her life has been, to go back, change. Change entire cultures, Paris versus New York, that languages, friends, peer groups, school systems, the whole thing. And somehow she's been resilient through all this, because she finds within all of these, she has the adversity all kids have of, like social and et cetera. But the younger ones, I don't know, there's a higher level of caring. There is still the drama and the cliques and all that kind of stuff. They learn all that stuff early. But watching them form their own social groups out of nothing, and there is this caring between them all, which is actually fascinating to watch, because they do it out of sheer inner nature. They're not told to do it. They're not forced to do it. It's exactly just like the keyboard thing. Like they just pick each other up and start playing and like figure it out and build it. And it's absolutely fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. And what sticks out the most now as she gets older is the kids who come from like bad, uncaring environments interact very differently than the ones who you could tell, like they come from like caring environments. But the other ones like kind of upset the flow in a sense and change the dynamic with it. And I don't know where I'm really going with it, except like this one day, like, got spit on at school by someone. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of like a boy spit on her. I'm like, so how did you react? And she goes, well, I looked at him and I said, why did you do that? And I'm like, that's just such an amazing response. It's not like I hit him or screamed at him or da-da-da-da-da. But the teacher did see it and like went up to the kid and was like, I don't want to ever see you do that again. But just that kind of like raw response of just like, why did you do that? Like talk about just, like that raw, like radical candor. Like you're a friend of mine. Like why would you do that to me? Like why would this even occur? It's pretty fascinating. There's a lot to learn from them. That's what I like. I learn a lot from the little ones, and they're kind of like little gurus. But I'll let that go there.
Two thoughts off of that one. One, I guess a shared parenting experience. Jasper got picked on, for a few different things over the last few years. But one of the things, when he started coloring his hair, people would, some of the people would make fun of him for having pink hair, rainbow hair, and it was interesting when I asked him, like, how did that make you feel? And he's like, he just couldn't understand why. He's like, why would somebody do that, right? Like, why would they go out of their way? Why would they spend their energy just to be mean about something that doesn't actually affect them? And I think I want to try to tie that in, to Tom. You said, right, the kids that come from a not caring background, right, or a rougher background can sometimes like disrupt the flow. Lots of things disrupt the flow. And I'm going to see if I can tie this in. It may make no sense whatsoever. It barely makes sense in my head. But I think it's something important, at least in my head, which is, and I think the internet is an important component of this. We used to, like, things would happen organically. So you kind of found yourself, right? Like part of I never found this, but people found themselves part of like the cool group at school, right? Like, I know, I didn't say us, but clearly somebody did, right? But this idea that things happen organically, right? I think obviously they can, but I'm going to go on a tangent briefly.
Again?
The pandemic. Yes, this
is 3 tangents deep, dude.
But I want to keep tangenting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for the support. But when the pandemic happened and we all worked from home, and some people were arguing about being back in offices versus being remote, synchronous versus not, and I think a lot of the pushback was about, well, but in the office this was easier, right? Well, it was, but it wasn't necessarily because we were doing anything with intent or on purpose. I think the pandemic and asynchronous work has given us the opportunity, which we've mostly fumbled, but the opportunity to do things differently with intent to manufacture some of the benefits that we got from water cooler conversations, right? So one of the things I like about these conversations is that they are what I call non-performative, right? Like we are specifically not trying to solve anything, right? But this is where I mean, clearly the audience is bored by this point if they're still listening. But this is where like creative people need to be bored, right? We need to sort of like ramble and just talk around through over under things, and poke them, examine them, whatever. And I try to reel back in some of my tangents, right? Like I going back to kids from different backgrounds with different realities. I was reading. I was listening to a book. I think it's called like The Fight for Kindness. Hang on, I always get these wrong. It's the last thing I listened to it
That's
on
when you
Audible.
needed another tangent. We're almost
No,
there.
this is bringing it back. The War for Kindness. The War for Kindness, and which is a really interesting book. I like it. But the thing that resonated with me around, again, trying to tie it back to kids and not spitting on one another, or teaching kids not to spit on one another, is they were talking about a program to rehabilitate prisoners through reading and through fiction specifically. The hypothesis being that fiction helps give you different perspectives and helps you increase your imagination and increase your creativity. And that if you can, and that also gives you empathy. And so because you can have empathy for different people because you have seen different perspectives through the narrative and characters in books. And so in America, there's a program where there is literally like a book club, and the book club involves the judge and like the parole board member of the person who is going to be up for parole. And it actually changes like the perspective of how like the judge and the parole people think about it. And again, I don't want to go too far down that path, but I think this idea of everybody, right, deserves this joy of creating, right? Everyone deserves this joy of aha moments, and just because some of us are lucky to have come from caring backgrounds, other kids they need help with perspective, and adults too, probably more adults than kids. Right, because and I think we talked about this in episode 1. It feels really weird to like refer back to our conversations. I don't know that I like it, to be honest.
You're the one doing it.
Oh, that's true. Episode 1 doesn't exist anymore. Fantastic. Just like episode 1 from Star Wars shouldn't exist either. Oh god, I forgot my point again. Shit.
Good. Thank you. Definitely.
I don't know if I can volunteer from afar to talk to kids with that charity, but I would happily do it if I can.
Apart from the restraining order, that sounds like a wonderful idea. But I was gonna say though, there's more to it, because there's plenty of people who come from a lot of resources and background, and have all the paper and musical instruments and opportunities and da. But they don't learn the important thing, which is how to be creative. Juno isn't necessarily she just knows how to be creative. We've kind of like pushed her that way, and it's weird. Like, I was making up a song one night during a story, because I make a lot of bedtime stories up for her. She's like, "What is that song? It's beautiful. Like, who wrote it?" I'm like, "I did." And just right now. She's like, "Really?" It's beautiful. Now, the lyrics of the song were literally about her liking to stick her toes in her nose. But that didn't matter, because this is how it's been. There was one night, like during COVID, we were like between one place and coming to Paris. We were in another like house for like a month, and it was like bedtime story time. I didn't have anything, but I just picked up a book, and it was all blank. It was a big white book, and I just began making up a story about the white princess and the white castle and the white dragon and the snow and turning the pages. And she's like pointing on the page, being like, "Oh, there's the dragon here, and there's the elf here." And like she was visualizing it, right? And I was like, "That's like really cool." The problem was like a couple nights later, she wanted to hear it again, so I took out the book, and she was like pointing. She's like, "No, that isn't this page." And I'm like, "There's nothing on the page. I make this up." Like I created my own hellhole. It was horrible. It was very positive, but it was almost too creative. Anyway, anecdote. I will just finish side thing. This whole thing of like time and technology. We used to do this in high school, actually, using something called call waiting. We were all like the geeks, and we would get on the phone and have like 12 people on the phone having these kind of like, this is before computers, like just like everyone on the phone just having these kind of conversations that weren't being recorded until one asshole did record it, and then we did stuff with it. But and all those types of things. But this is kind of the same exact environment. Like we're having a conversation, someone may overhear it, someone may hop on the phone and listen to it, but it's going to disappear. I kind of like that because it shows that like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Anyway, back to
Wait,
Sean's tangents.
how do things stay the same? You lost me on that last part.
Oh, it's just a conversation that's going to disappear, but the technology facilitates it. The fact that we're using video technology, apart from me, I'm just on the phone here, is irrelevant. But it's just the same thing in a sense. The more that is part of the I Ching. The more things change, the more they stay exactly the same. Which is why this ancient book still holds true, because it really boils down to the same shit, different day. But yeah.
I was going to start down the path of technology as tool versus technology as drool, consumption versus creation. However, it is 11:22 p.m. here. We've been yammering for an hour and 20 minutes. This feels like maybe not a bad place to pause. How do you gentlemen feel?
Well, thank you for letting me be part of the Fandango tonight, gentlemen. It's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Whatever goes on, you still have to prove that I exist and that I am not some kind of ventriloquist thing that Sean discovered, that I'm really just a chat GPT functionality he's testing out while he takes over the world. That's very good.
That's what happened pretty much around the world.
Exactly.
But Tom, you do have to, get a mohawk if you're going to stay.
Okay, sure. No, okay, I'll figure out something. I need to do something with my hair, so maybe mohawk is the way to go. Exactly. Change. It's natural. But
not sure how I feel about the mohawk hat head though. Not so much. Yep. All right, gentlemen, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure and an honor, gentlemen. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Definitely. Cheers, guys.
Well, I'm having a holiday Christmas dinner on the 16th of December. You're both invited. I think I sent you the invite, both of you.
I will not be leaving Paris. Nor is coming back from Miami that week. But aloha, adios.
Adios, amigos.